everyone. Watch till the end of the video for a surprise. I'll see you there. I sell guns on the dark web. Now, it's my turn to be afraid. Story by u/Monstersinmymind. What happened to me isn't going to pull on any heartstrings, I'm sure. I'll admit it right now. I'm a bad guy, a low-life sleazebag that made my money outside of the law. I'm here so others can point their finger at me and say, "At least I'm not like him." That's been my role in society, and I've come to terms with it. But I am still a human being, and I still have feelings and rights. So, what happened to me shouldn't ever happen to anyone, period. So like I said, I'm an outlaw. I sell pharmaceuticals to let people forget their problems for a while. A downside is that the government has been taking over my job lately, what with marijuana being legalized and all that. Customers are moving forward to easier to get and no jail time providing kicks. It's been a rough go for me economically, and I had to diversify my portfolio, so to speak, and turn to gun running on the dark web. Now, there's a revenue stream that won't dry up soon. Unmarked handguns and fully automatic weapons with no wait period or background check appeal to a lot of different clientele. I don't know where they go or who is buying them for what purpose. I am not the morality police. I'm just a guy trying to make a buck. Enough of that though. Let's cut to the chase. I got a story to tell, and you got time to listen. It all started a few weeks ago. Business had been booming lately, what with all the riots both sides want to be armed. My usual base of gangs, mafia, and various criminals, and not to mention, the whole quarantine. Toilet paper isn't the only thing being stockpiled, I guess. The point that I'm trying to make is that I had so much business that I couldn't keep track of all of it, or anything else for that matter. So when earlier this year, a news report came on about the little kid being caught in the crossfire of some baddies, and that the police had traced the weapons being used to have been sold off from the dark web, it never even registered on my radar. 4 Sundays ago, I had just gotten off the phone with my grandmother. She wasn't doing too well, but I promised her that the payment for her treatment was in the mail when I got an email from a client, a small-time gang called Sun Yi On. If that doesn't ring a bell, then the Triad. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know the underworld. Try to Google it. They were asking why they got 112-inch black dildos instead of the AK-47s that they had ordered. Let me tell you, they did not find this funny at all. After that, the emails came pouring in and threats were made on my life, ranging from big-time gangs to local bubbas wondering where their Bambi Killer 3000 was. I spent all of my Monday reaching out to my contacts and asking what had happened. None of them knew. According to them, the shipments went out as ordered. I had to hire a hacker to get into the UPS system, only to find out that the orders had been rerouted to the police organizations, and then other orders were sent out in their place. Holy hell, my life is ruined, I said to myself, head in hands, as I tried to puzzle together what had actually happened. Reality hadn't even set in yet when a voice came through the speakers on my computer. "Having a bad day, are we?" it said. "Funny how these things happen out of nowhere and blindside you." I looked up and noticed that the light was on, indicating that my webcam was also active. When you've been on the dark web as long as I have, you know the risk you run of being hacked. I thought that I had set up enough protection, But there is always someone out there that can get around it, I suppose. Unfazed by this, given my recent circumstances, I sat there and gave the camera a middle finger. I wouldn't have taken you as the stoic type, especially after your reputation is in ruins and your life may now be at stake. Pissed off some high-level buyers, haven't you? They might just come to collect your ass for the goods they didn't get. Piss off! Wait, it was you, wasn't it? I said, bolting upright. Initially, this was an annoyance. Now, this voice had my attention. What I may or may not have done should be your least concern. You should be worried about the 4 Triad members coming around the corner down the street right now, the voice said. My computer screen switched to a CCTV camera down my street. I think it was from an ATM and showed a group of burly Chinese men coming down the road. I could tell it was by my place from the little bakery across the way from the camera. At first, I rushed to grab my things and head out. But then it hit me. Why would this voice ruin my life and then help me escape by warning me someone was after me? Inches from the door, I stopped as I mulled this over. Moments later, there was a knock on my apartment. Through the peephole, I saw the same 4 men that had minutes ago been down the street. Vibrations went off in my pocket and I reached in to grab my phone. Don't talk, just listen. I know a safe place for you to go. Head out the back window and down the fire escape. I'll tell you where to go after that. The same voice from my computer speakers told me through my phone. I didn't have a second to think about what was happening and followed what he told me to do. Down the rusty ladder and into the dirty alleyway I went, and as soon as I hit the ground, a lookout on the street spotted me. He yelled up to his companions, then gave chase. Take the next left, then cross the street and go down the alley on the other side, he said. Gunshots rang out from behind and a bullet whizzed by my head. Hurry up, you're almost there. I can't hold the light much longer, the voice told me. There was no traffic on the street, so I was able to cross easily. The men were about 10 feet behind me, and as soon as I was on the other side, the stoplight turned green, and the road that I had just crossed became busy. One of the men seemed to think he could follow after me, and the cars would stop for him. He was mistaken, and got hit by one. This caused a huge jam, and the other men were forced to abandon their chase to tend to their now unconscious associate. Keep going down the alley, then take a left and go into the building there. I did as I was told, and once I turned the corner, ran into the door on my left and slammed it with relief. The room was large and dark, save for the flicker of a computer screen in the middle. There wasn't much that I could make out, but the space was seemingly empty. From the white light, I could tell that the wall to my right was covered in a foam latex texturing. My phone hung up, and there was a soft click of a lock from the door behind me. Hey, you can't lock me in here, I yelled. What the hell do you think you're doing? I demanded as I made my way to the computer. How did the Triad get my address? And who the hell are you? Why would you save me after ruining my life? I'm the guy who gave the Triad your address. That's who I am, the voice said from the computer. I'd save you after ruining your life because revenge is a dish best served cold. The temperature in the room immediately began to drop, and within minutes, my breath was frosty as I huddled on the floor in a feeble attempt to stay warm. It was then that I realized I was in some kind of warehouse, and the foam latex was insulation. Breath became labored, and my eyes wouldn't focus. I tried to talk, but all that came out was gibberish. Heavy eyelids finally refused to open as I sank into a blackness that I have never experienced before. "Get up! I'm not done with you yet," the voice said. My head pounded like a bass drum, dull and achy. Lights were now on in the warehouse. The place was even bigger than I had originally thought. Not just a freezer like I had figured. It took up about half the city block and was wall-to-wall white. There was a door opposite of the one that I entered, and one on each of the other walls as well. Throbbing pain coursed through my right hand, and looking down, I was shocked to realize that my middle finger had been cut off clean. "What the hell? My finger! You took my finger!" Hurts when something is taken from you suddenly, doesn't it? Here are my rules. Listen up. You don't touch the computer, or you die. You do what you're told, or you die. Don't try to escape, or you die. That's it. Pretty simple. For the next 24 hours, I own you. Now, come here. I got something I want to show you. Still too weak to stand, I crawled over to the screen like an animal. Pain blinded me every time my hand hit the floor. At least, the bleeding had stopped already. Pictures of guns shown on the screen, 3 pistols and an automatic rifle. "Do these look familiar to you?" the man asked. "No, should they?" "You sold them earlier this year. They were used in a shooting that killed 2 drug dealers and an innocent child." "Look, I only facilitate the sales. I don't actually handle the product. I'm more of a middleman. What these people want them for and why they use them is not my concern. I'm only trying to make a buck." "Then get a job and contribute to society like a normal person. You sad excuse for a human being." "Jobs nowadays barely cover the bills, let alone pay for a grandmother's cancer treatment." "Go cry to a shrink. Point is that these weapons are now being kept at the police station in the evidence locker. I want you to go get them." "I can't do that. I'm a mid-level gun runner. I can't get around the security or pass myself off as an officer to get in there. I need a uniform, a badge, key cards. It's undoable for me." "I think now would be a good time to take a hard look into your stumpy finger." I brought my hand up and looked deep into the wound. Underneath all the blood clots and pulp, I could clearly make out a silver-looking metal. "That container has potassium cyanide in it. If you don't do as you're told, it injects you with a lethal dose. I have the button here in my hand." Pictures of me started to flash across the screen. They were of me at the grocery store, the gas station, and even taking a walk near my apartment. "I can see you anywhere in the city. Stray off course, and you're dead. There is an earpiece in the basket by the door. Connect your phone to it via Bluetooth and listen to my instructions. If you do what I say, you'll be fine." I went to the door and found everything as he said I would. I connected the earpiece to my phone and then put it in my ear. It was pretty small and most likely wouldn't be noticeable by others. There was also a police uniform in the basket, which I put on as well. He then told me which station to go to and that there was a car waiting for me outside. The door opened with a click. Outside was fully marked police car, gassed and ready to go. Whoever this guy was, he had connections that I had never seen before. It was a nerve-wracking 30-minute drive to my destination. My hand hurt like hell the whole time. a constant reminder of the power that this person now had over me. So, you need these guns back so you don't get in trouble? If that's the case, why didn't you send one of your people to do it? No reason to torture and harass me like this. I'm just saying, you seem to have connections and incredible hacking skills. No need for all this violence, I said. Turn left here, he replied, and I drove the rest of the way in silence, save for when he told me directions. Finally, I got to the station. Was a little worried my hand would draw suspicion, so I slipped it into my pocket. The added pressure from the pans caused the capsule to shift, and I was worried that it might go off accidentally. Then, I would hit the floor dead in the middle of a cop shop surrounded by officers. Wouldn't that make for a crazy news story at 6? The evidence locker is in the basement. Cell reception will cut out there. You got 15 minutes to get the guns and get out, or I inject the cyanide. I don't want you turning yourself in or something. Everything you need to get the guns is in your left back pocket, and I've already submitted all the necessary paperwork in the computer. The man said, and then he was gone. I got down to the basement no problem, flashed my badge and asked to be let in. Everything was going smooth. I went into the back and put the 3 guns into the evidence bags, then started to walk out. Hey, you gotta sign those out. You can't just walk out of here with them, the clerk behind the desk said. Oh, yeah, a long day. Must have forgotten, I replied, gave the man my badge number, and signed some paperwork. I thought this case was closed already. Why do they want to look at the evidence again? The clerk asked. I stumbled for a minute, then came up with something. New evidence in the case. The DA wants to look at some stuff. They might reopen it, I said, hoping that any of that made sense. Ah, okay, you must be from uptown. The paperwork is all in order, but I'll need a detective to sign off on this first. The clerk got up and went in back. I could see him through some glass talking to a man in a suit. He looked at me, then the other man looked at me. Then the clerk pointed to me. I don't know what they were saying, but the detective looked suspicious. 14 minutes had already passed, and I didn't have time to wait. Without thinking, I grabbed the bags that held the guns through the slot of the plexiglass divider and then ran. I could hear the office doors fly open as the clerk and the detective gave chase. It didn't even matter if they even caught me. If I didn't get out there in a minute, I was a dead man anyways. I took the stairs and ran as fast as I could. My heart was beating out of my chest as I burst through the doors on the first floor. My pursuers followed right behind me. They were yelling and screaming for someone to stop me. One big burly cop stepped out in front of me right before the main doors, and I put my shoulder down like I was going to plow into him, but then took a step left then right. He lunged at me, but I narrowly avoided it, and I was out in the parking lot. Shots rang out as I sprinted to my cruiser and got in. The back window was shattered as it was hit by a bullet, but I managed to turn the key and then get out of there. Ear-splitting sirens filled the air as a whole slew of cop cars gave chase. "Did you get the guns?" the voice said over my earpiece. "Yes, you asshole! You set me up!" "I didn't know you would mess up this bad. I'll take care of it. You just get out of their sight." I managed to take a few sharp corners and lose them for a second. Then, I heard my mystery man's voice come across the scanner. He was giving them false directions on which way I was going, leading them away from me. He then told me where to ditch the car that I was in, and that a new vehicle would be waiting for me there, along with a change of clothes. I again did what he said, and I got into an old Ford Pinto, and then changed my clothes. It was about 20 minutes to get back to the warehouse. The lights were off again, and the computer was the only thing visible. "Put the guns in the back and then come back over to the computer," I was told. I went in and did it, and as I approached, I noticed on the screen there was a picture of a young boy. "I'm not gonna do any kidnapping or off a child. You can just kill me right now," I told him. "No, you won't. You already have. Kneel down and take a close look at this picture. Surely, you recognize this one. He was all over the news a while back." "I don't know what you mean. I've never killed a kid before in my life," I said, while getting down to look. "Not directly, you haven't, but let me tell you about this one. He was 9 years old and had just gotten his new shiny bike that he had always wanted. He asked his dad if he could go for a ride, and his dad said yes. What kind of world do we live in when a kid can't even ride his own bike? He was only a few blocks from his house when gunfire filled the street. There were some drug dealers on that block, and it was drive-by. Do you know where these people got their guns from?" "Let me take a wild guess." "Me," I responded. "Do you know which guns they were?" a voice said from behind me. The touch of cold steel pressed against the back of my head. "You killed my son when you sold those men these guns, the same ones that I had you retrieve for me." Whoever this man was, he was now right behind me, and from the sound of it, he eagerly anticipated my demise. "All right, man. If you're going to do it, then do it. Know, however, that I only do this to help my grandma. She'd be dead if it wasn't for me. She's old, has already lived her life. My son had his whole life ahead of him, and you stole that. The ends don't justify the means." A sharp crack rang in my head when he hit me with the butt of the gun. I was on my back, looking up. Tears welled in my eyes from the pain. He pointed the gun right at my face and pulled the trigger. I flinched in anticipation for my final moments. Click. The gun was empty. "Death is too good for you. I will never bring my boy back. You're gonna live your life in fear from now on. One day, or maybe never, you may experience the most horrific and painful death ever dreamed of. Inside of you is another capsule, a different capsule that won't be detected by any medical procedure or scan. If I ever feel the need to release it, you will have a slow, painful, and unstoppable death. You'll have to wait and see if that day ever comes." He then threw the gun into my face and then busted my nose. His footsteps trailed off as he walked out the door, and the temperature began to drop, and the faint sounds of police sirens echoed in the distance before I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in the hospital being treated for hypothermia. The police linked me to the evidence room robbery, and I'm now serving 20 years in the state pen. My hand throbs every time there is a change in the weather, and I don't sleep much anymore, always wondering if this day will be my last. The 5 True Red Rooms on the Dark Web. Written by a known writer 00 or Ravyn Blackhurst. I work for a huge company that helps bring down bad websites on the web. I can't reveal the name here, but I have been doing this for many years now. A few years ago, I discovered a group of red rooms called the 5 True Red Rooms on the deep web. Now, don't go lurking around trying to find them because you won't. A true red room cannot be accessed through Tor. If you try, you will just set yourself up for getting a shitty virus on your computer. I have been told that they are scams, but rest assured, a few of them are not. It is very hard for an individual who doesn't understand the concept of the 5 True Red Rooms to try and break in. Let's just say you have to know someone that runs one of them. It can't be accessed through Tor. You have to know someone or be lucky enough to get a passcode to get into them. You have to be proven trustworthy. And in this case, I gained the trust of someone who helped moderate one. The True Red Rooms are a series of 5 rooms, sort of like doors. If you can gain access to the first red room, you pay Bitcoin and show that you are serious. Then, you may get permission to access the second red room, and so on. What do you see in these evil live streams? Well, I'll tell you. Here is the first true red room. I clicked on the first screen, and a black box appeared asking for my passcode. I had typed it in, and it was 4 numbers, a dash, and my username given to access that site. Permission granted, it said, and I was in. I thought it was too easy. On the first page was a bunch of black video boxes with titles. Some of them were videos titled, "Watch Me Scare Kara," or "Tiffany Gets Spooked," and I clicked on the "Watch Me Scare Kara" first. A man with what seemed to be a cell phone camera is pointing it towards the front door. He is inside a home, and it looks like he is hiding behind a door, and I can see the living room furniture. A nice leather love seat and bookshelves are in the room. He is whispering in a foreign language that I cannot understand. He never shows his face. But then suddenly, the doorknob is turning, and I hear keys rattling. A girl in a green nurse's uniform with blonde hair and a tan comes in. She's petite looking, and she's probably in her 20s. Suddenly, I hear a man's voice scream, "Don't move!" And she freezes like a deer in headlights, and then screams and drops her keys. A man in all black and a black ski mask is running towards her with a giant hammer. Her arms go up and she screams to block him, and he smacks her in the head twice with a hammer. She falls to the ground, and red blood pools up on the white carpet, and she is completely knocked out. The man points to the man who is hiding behind the door and says what sounds like the words, "Done," and then both cameras are shut off. If this was real, it was the most disturbing thing that I have ever seen. It did not look fake at all, and I didn't want to know what happened next. I could only imagine. I didn't even want to click on the second video, but I did. The next video, "Tiffany Gets Spooked," was even worse. This time, the camera is zoomed in on what looks to be a park. A woman with brown hair and blue jogging suit is running laps around a track. The foreign-sounding guy is sitting in what appears to be his car, and I can see the cracked windshield. He is wearing black gloves, but never shows his face. He is laughing and talking a little, and the girl is still jogging. I wanted to yell to the poor girl, "Run away! Get out of that park! You're being stalked!" But I realized that there was nothing that I could do, and she wouldn't be able to hear me anyway. Suddenly, the camera shuts off, and I think the video is over. Well, I was wrong. Very wrong. The video comes back on in what looks like night vision. It is green and a little choppy, and I can see what looks like a bunch of pine trees around. Then, I see what the camera is focusing on. A girl is in what looks like a trunk, and she is trying to scream. Her legs and arms are tied and bound, and her mouth has a gag in it. It looks like the same girl from earlier in the blue jogging suit. And now she is barefoot. I can only see black gloves and a hairy-looking man. It looks like the same guy from the earlier video. He is in all black and is smoothing her hair back, and the man holding the camera is telling her to calm down in English. She's crying. Then he begins to pull her body out of the trunk. Thunk. He bumps her head by accident on the trunk lid. I feel relieved, thinking it's all a joke and that she will be okay. But suddenly, I feel very sickened. I can't believe what they were going to do. The man in black with a black ski mask lays her on the ground, and she gives up crying and screaming at this point. The camera zooms in on her face. The lights go out in her eyes, and all I can see is darkness. This poor girl has lost all hope. I want to cry, and I fight back the tears. They began to tie her wrist to the bumper of the car. The cameraman is still there holding the camera, and the other man gets in the car. I hear the engine roar, and they were going to drag her behind it. The video then cuts off. And here are the top comments for my last video. Welcome to Miss Creepy Tales Riddle Time. If you know the answer, feel free to leave it in the comments. And the winner gets to be featured in the next video. You may see this hairy creature by the light of the moon. You can start running, but it will likely catch you soon. You can hope for escape with the rising sun, but you have a better chance with silver bullets and a gun. What am I? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.